Okay, let's picture something for a moment. Something spreading, well, organically. Not pushed, but growing from this shared belief, changing whole communities.
And it's not new, is it? The roots go way back, right to the early days of the Christian faith.
Exactly. We're taking a deep dive today into what are called church planting movements, basically exploring how new faith groups can multiply really quickly and naturally within a population.
And the source material we're looking at, it's interesting because it's not just theory. It's based on actually watching these movements happen all over the world, different places.
Right. And connecting what's seen on the ground with, core ideas from the Bible.
It really feels like a practical guide drawn from seeing how these things actually unfold.
Yeah. So our mission today, to really understand the stages, the steps involved as these movements gain steam.
And maybe more pointedly, to help you, listening in, figure out where you might fit in. Doesn't matter if you're a pastor, just curious, whatever. Where do you stand with this whole phenomenon?
Because it is a phenomenon.
Yeah.
And it's not usually an overnight thing, right? The source talks about a journey.
Definitely a journey. Through different levels of getting involved. It starts pretty simply, maybe just talking about it.
And potentially leads all the way to being right in the middle of a thriving movement.
And the source lays out this kind of spectrum, 5 stages, really.
Okay, let's unpack that first one. Stage 1, a rhetorical embrace. What does that look like?
Well, it's basically when the idea starts getting talked about, people mention church planting movements, maybe nod along.
Like, who wouldn't agree with it in principle? The source says it's like criticizing mom or apple pie. It sounds universally good.
Exactly. It's easy to say, yeah, that sounds great. But the key thing missing here, usually, is any real deep understanding.
Or, crucially, any actual plan to change how things are normally done.
Right. It's like adopting the buzzword. You wear the jersey, maybe, but you're not actually playing the game. The talk is there, but not the willingness to shift.
So, lots of positive noise, but, like the source says, no intention of redirecting business as usual.
Precisely, just scratching the surface. Which, okay, can be a starting point, but it leads into stage 2.
There's two, too. A simmering vision. This feels like a real step up.
It is. The talk starts to become something more personal, a real sense of, hey, this could actually happen.
And what triggers that? The source mentions a few things.
Yeah, it could be reading something powerful, maybe like the book behind this deep dive even, or hearing someone really passionate about it.
Or seeing a movement happening somewhere else.
Right. And the key is it shifts from just agreeing with the idea to actually believing it could happen in your town, your community.
The source uses the word obsession, which is pretty strong.
It highlights that intensity, doesn't it? This growing belief, this awareness. It's possible here.
But
Yeah.
there's a but. You can get stuck here.
Yeah.
Even with a strong vision.
Definitely. That's a real danger zone mentioned. People get the vision, they feel the excitement, but then stall.
Why? What stops them?
A couple of things. One, maybe they just don't know what to do next. Like the practical steps are fuzzy.
Okay.
Or 2, they might fall into this trap the source calls divine dismissal.
Divine dismissal, meaning
Meaning they think, well, it's up to God now. They see the vision, but figure their part is done, and it's solely God's job to make it happen.
overlooking their own role and actually, doing something.
Exactly. So that simmering vision, it needs fuel to actually catch fire.
And that fuel maybe is stage 3, faith-seeking understanding.
You got it. Moving from just having the vision to actively figuring things out, learning the principles behind these movements.
And also the obstacles, what gets in the way.
Yes, both sides, what helps them grow and what hinders them. It's about gaining real knowledge.
So the excitement starts getting grounded in some actual understanding of how this works.
Right. And the source says this understanding comes from really watching, observing what God is doing, how he's working.
It's not just abstract theory.
No, it's rooted in observation and the conviction that, hey, we're supposed to be part of this, active participants.
So studying the patterns, the challenges. The source says this brings an amazing sense of purpose and empowerment.
It does. Suddenly it feels more possible, more tangible.
But understanding isn't enough on its own, is it? That's a key point.
Crucial point. Understanding is vital, gives you the map, but it doesn't guarantee you'll arrive. It doesn't automatically create a movement.
Which brings us to stage 4.
Stage 4, passionate pursuit. Now we're talking action, real, committed action.
This is where the understanding gets put into practice, even when it's risky.
Especially when it's risky. This is translating the vision and the understanding into doing something concrete.
The source uses that powerful parable, right? The treasure hidden in the field.
Yeah, the person finds it and then sells everything to get that field. That's the level of commitment we're talking about. Total buy-in.
Wow. And it contrasts that with another story.
It does. The rich young ruler, he wanted to follow, he understood some things, but...
But his stuff, his possessions, held him back.
Exactly. He walked away sad. It's a stark reminder that understanding isn't the same as commitment when the cost is high.
And the source is realistic here? It acknowledges failures happen at this stage.
Well, absolutely. Setbacks are pretty much expected. But the core idea is, without that passionate drive, that implementation, the vision just stays a vision. It won't happen.
You have to actually do it consistently.
Yes, energetically, unwaveringly applying what you've learned, even through the rough patches.
And if that passionate pursuit really takes root and spreads...
Then you might reach stage 5, riding the wave.
Riding the wave. That sounds exhilarating. Maybe a bit out of control.
Maybe. It's the point where things really start moving fast. Churches, planting churches, rapidly, with real enthusiasm.
A kind of self-sustaining multiplication.
Exactly. But the key mindset shift here, the source points out, is realizing it's not your accomplishment.
Ah, right. It's not about, look what I did.
No. It's about recognizing God's power moving through it all. The analogy shifts. You're not riding a horse, trying to steer it.
You're riding a wave, harnessing something bigger.
Precisely. Something powerful, almost unstoppable, that you're caught up in.
The source mentions joyous exhaustion. I like that. Still working hard, but
fueled by this incredible momentum that feels, well, God-given.
That's a really helpful progression. Rhetoric, vision, understanding, pursuit, riding the wave.
And what's encouraging is the idea that, wherever you are on that spectrum, even if you're just at the talking about it stage,
it's possible to move towards seeing a movement happen if the vision is shared.
That's the hope held out. It's not a closed door.
So that really brings the question home for everyone listening. Where do you see yourself right now? Rhetoric, vision, understanding, that passionate pursuit phase, or maybe even riding the wave.
It's definitely something to chew on.
And tied into this, inevitably, is dealing with doubt, right? Skepticism.
Oh, for sure. The source tackles this head on. It lists places where people basically said, impossible, it can't happen here.
Vietnam, Cambodia, China, parts of Central America, Africa.
Right, places where the odds seemed stacked against it, where people were deeply skeptical, and yet...
And yet, movements did happen, thrived even.
It's a powerful counter-narrative to that voice saying, nah, not here, not possible.
And the source suggests that same doubt might be exactly what you're feeling about your own context.
It draws this really sharp contrast, doesn't it, between Satan wanting silence and skepticism.
And Christ calling for belief. Be no longer unbelieving, but believe.
It frames it as a spiritual battleground in a way.
And it makes the point that both doubt and faith are contagious.
Yeah, one can shut things down, the other can spark something amazing, which leads to that really intense quote.
I want about God doing something unbelievable. Look, watch. Be utterly amazed. I'm going to do something in your days that you would not believe, even if you were told.
Wow, that really puts it to you, doesn't it?
It does. So the source basically asks point blank, well, how about you? Do you believe?
A challenging question.
So zooming out a bit, what's the bigger picture significance of these movements?
Well, the source argues they reveal something fresh about how God works in the world, maybe in ways that challenge our standard church practices.
Even if they seem unconventional sometimes.
Right. And the undeniable fact is they are growing. They are expanding and bringing more people into the kingdom.
And while there seem to be clear steps, clear ways to align with what God seems to be doing,
ultimately, the choice is ours. We can engage or we can decide not to. That freedom is always there.
The source uses a really interesting historical example to drive this home. Japan and firearms.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Back in the 16th century, Japan got firearms from the Portuguese. And they didn't just adopt them, they got really good at making them fast.
Better than the Europeans, even.
For a time, yes. By 1600, they were arguably making the best guns in the world. Huge production numbers.
Okay, but then something shifted dramatically.
Completely. The samurai, the warrior class, they started to see guns as, well, dishonorable, unsamurai-like.
Why? Because anyone could use one.
Pretty much. A peasant with a gun could potentially beat a highly trained samurai warrior. It undermined their whole value system, their prestige, the art of traditional warfare.
So what did they do?
They made a conscious decision over decades to essentially eliminate guns from Japanese society. By around 1650, they were almost completely gone.
Wow. Until centuries later when Commodore Perry showed up.
Exactly. It was a deliberate turning away from a technology they had mastered based on cultural values, a real hinge moment in their history.
And the source connects that kind of decisive moment, that hinge, to our present.
Yes, but with much higher stakes. It suggests the hinge of history now involves the eternal destiny of millions.
So the question isn't just, are these movements good or bad?
No, the core question becomes, are you going to be a participant or just an observer in what God might be doing right now?
That's quite a challenge.
Yeah.
The source basically says these movements are happening, they're inevitable in a sense.
Right. They are the reality, we are the question mark, will we get involved, or watch from the sidelines?
So, wrapping this up, understanding these 5 stages: rhetoric, vision, understanding passionate pursuit, riding the wave, it gives you a kind of map.
Yeah, a framework to see where you might be personally in relation to this whole thing, this significant global movement.
And thinking about that hinge of history idea, it's powerful. Maybe the final thought for you to take away is this. It's not just about religious movements, is it?
No, it applies broadly.
Think about any area where you see the potential for real, deep change. What does it actually mean to step in to be an active part of shaping that future versus just watching it happen?
Participant or observer? That's a big question to ponder long after this deep dive ends.